My name is James, and I get to be your chauffeur for this first class, HRM 550. It is the first class in the sequence of the HR graduate program at Central Washington University. I got myself branded here, so don't get confused about where I am. And this is Human Resource Foundations, and that really is the purpose of the course. It's to lay a deep, strong foundation from which the rest of the program will be built on. There's people coming in from a lot of different places in terms of where they're at with HR. Some people are HR managers, even HR directors. Some people are specialists. They've done benefits or payroll or recruiting. Some people have recently graduated in HR, and some people have recently graduated or even working in other areas, but they have an affinity for HR. So what we're going to try to do is bring everybody together for some common vernacular. What I'm going to do in this introduction video is basically describe how the course is going to be laid out, kind of how we're going to do things, and then I'll scroll down and we'll take a look at the schedule and how it kind of fits into our life and assignments and things that we're going to pursue, including kind of the one major project. And then I'll scroll back up and describe each one of the assignments as we go along the way. So that's what we're going to do. HRM 550, I'm James. That's my office phone number. Most of you guys probably have my cell phone number anyway. But just in case you didn't, if you call that number, it will be forwarded to my cell phone number, at which point, if I don't have your number, I probably won't answer. So leave a voicemail and tell me who you are, and then I'll give you a call right back. I'm in Shaw 332, kind of irrelevant because we're scattered, all over the United States, and a few people out, mostly in the Pacific Northwest, but a few folks have come in from other places as well. So given this is a fully online class, Zoom and iPhone will probably be our best friends. Skype, if you prefer, I don't really care. I just like connecting with people. I don't really care how we do it. You can roll through, see the mission and learning goals if you'd like to. I want to jump to the logistics of the course. Congratulations, you have made it into the graduate certification program. I probably evaluated your credentials, so this is a good group. Textbooks, not really, sort of. It's an old, classic, beautiful book. Looks like this. It's called The HR Value Proposition. Lead author Dave Ulrich. So let me scroll over here. You can find it like this on Amazon. You can buy it new if you want to, used for $10, whatever it is. What we're going to do with this book is go through it kind of week by week and use it to synthesize with something else I'll show you in a minute called the SHRM body of knowledge, competency and knowledge. And that's going to produce, that'll be kind of the anchor for the production of your final audit project, the big capstone for the class. But in addition to the HR value proposition, obviously we have Canvas that we'll be using. The SHRM body of competency and knowledge, I'll show you that in just a minute. Your own personal research. Lectures, which I'll show you, and that's just really for a foundation for those who maybe have not been up into HR more recently. And another reading that I think is helpful. I'm not going to evaluate you on it or anything like that. There's no quizzes or anything, but I think it's a good reading. It's a short one. So some optional resources. We're going to have Zoom meetings every week. Well, I say we. I will be on Zoom every week at specified times, which will be laid out here in the syllabus. And that, I feel like, is the time for us to connect. It's a fully online class. People's schedules, like I said, are all over different time zones. But that will be, if you can show up, an opportunity to connect and bounce ideas about either assignments or topics or whatever. Bring questions. I'll probably bring stuff. And there will be, whatever, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And I think that'll probably be the most helpful in terms of sharpening expectations for assignments and how to go about diving into some of the material. Those are extra credit. It's important to know, and it's not going to be a huge game changer, but given that that's a fully online class, we don't require any type of what do you call it, synchronous communication. That's an option. If you want an HR textbook, I mean, let me know. There's a million of them online. They're pretty easy for some people to just come up to speed. I did ask some of the other faculty in the program about a recommended reading list. Here are some books here that I think are stellar. I almost included the HR scorecard as part of this, but it's only about a 5 or 6 week class. I figured one book was enough for us to go through. Okay, So let me go down to the schedule and we can get an idea of what the course is gonna look like. Oop, that's not it. There we go. All right, so the dates and stuff you'll see in here on your particular section, but it's broken up into about, like I said, 6 different. You can think of it like modules. So we're going to start. It's going to be a short week. We get into it that week. We will have a Zoom meeting. It'd be great if you could get on that one because that's like I said, live conversations a little bit better. We'll introduce the class, a little bit about the purpose of HR. We'll be there in the Zoom meeting and connecting to the SHRM body of competency and knowledge. And I'd like to have a discussion, that first part, about professional certification. As many of you know, as many of you are pursuing, there are different types of professional certification in HR. You look over on the right-hand column, you'll see that's our very first assignment. What we're going to do right away is everybody take a look at where they are in their career and their kind of professional experience, just getting started or more seasoned, and go, okay, what professional certification do I desire? What do I qualify for? What's the best way to study for it? Stuff like that. I'll explain that assignment here in just a minute. That's the end of the first week, as well as a little bit looser assignment, personal program goals. So that's not just for this class. What are your goals for the next several months as we kind of go through this program? What are you hoping to get out of it? And I will use this as your faculty advisor for how can I steer this person? Where do they want to go? Quite obviously, we are invested in your success. If there's a particular direction you want to go, we want to help you go do that if we can. The second week, you can see, we'll talk a little bit about compliance. I'll explain that. Compliance is the necessary but insufficient condition for HR. If someone is really, really good at compliance and rules and policies and procedures, that's great. You're not going to grow. You're going to be stuck there. That's really basic. It can be value added. What we're going to try to talk about is linking HR to business strategy and creating human systems that successfully execute that business strategy. That's the main idea, the main value added proposition of HR. But we can't do that without compliance. Our managers will expect that of us. Our directors, whoever they are, will expect that of us. We will be good at that. And that kicks into the next series of assignments. You will have 4 what I call HR perspective essay questions. That's just where I want to make sure we're all on the same page, create some common vernacular. If you've been around HR, they'll be very easy. And if it's new to you, you just read a little bit about it and it'll still probably be very easy. The end of the second week's a big moment. That's where you choose the firm that you are going to audit. You will audit all of their HR processes. Sound cool? I'll explain that in just a minute. As we move on, you will do the HR perspective essay questions. We'll have 4 sets of those over the 4 weeks, and you'll begin pre-submission of your audit, kind of what you found, your findings in the 15 functional areas of HR. And if you're totally confused right now, like what's he talking about? Audit, functional areas? I totally get that. Give me a minute. It'll make sense. I just want to get kind of the schedule down for those weeks. We do the functional areas 6 through 10, and then we do 11 through 15. And this is where you basically submit, hey, Avey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's where I'm going. This is what I'm finding. Is there something I'm missing? What do you think about this? And we'll play off of each other, hopefully in those group Zoom meetings. And then the very end, of course, submit some personal reflections, as well as the big kahuna there, the final HR audit, which is a big part of the course. So let's go up really quick and look at each of these assignments that I just screened through quickly. Number 1, certification assignment. It's worth 50 points overall. For this assignment, student will conduct primary research into this professional human resource certification. There's a series of different exams. Some people already have certification. And if you say, look, this is where I'm at, I don't want another test, like I'm good right now, that's fine. But the question is, what would it be? What would it take? This is really, really intended for, we are at point A right now, whatever the date is. And if point B is the next level of certification, I'd like you to take a look at what does it take to get there? What are the resources? What kind of study time? What kind of study materials? All that kind of stuff. And in a sense, build a plan to make that happen. I'm not going to follow up with you and make sure that, are they executing the plan? Too much anyway. As your advisor, I may check in from time to time. But really, it's just build that plan. The next assignment, personal program goals. Oh, I guess that's up there. Personal program goals. That is, what are you hoping for out of the program? This is pretty light. It's 25 points. It's just think about your career, think about your trajectory, and just go, what do I want to do? And kind of what's my plan to get there? How am I going to do that? The next one is broken up there. Basically, it's one thing we're going to do 4 different times. So this is HR perspective. And again, if you have been working in HR, you're going, James, you seriously asking me what the FMLA is? And yeah, actually, I'm going to do that. And if you are new to HR, you're going to go, what's FMLA? I'm not sure I understand that. That's great. That's why we're doing this assignment. So that's totally fine. So what you see here is a series of HR, what I call HR compliance topics. FMLA, Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. What is the Affordable Care Act? I've heard about it in the news. Age Discrimination Employment Act. Tell me about emotional intelligence, transformational leadership theory. All of these things are lifted directly from study guides for the PHR exam. And so I'm going to throw these out there, and I'm not going to tell you which one. And there's going to be a handful of them each week that I'm going to throw out and say, okay, this week I want you to describe what a SWOT analysis is. Give me the history behind retaliation, and tell me about the Wagner Act. These are not big fat research papers. These are, do we understand the basics, the mechanics of each one of these ideas? It's kind of, again, laying the foundation. They're 25 points each for 4 of them. It's 100 points overall. So it's a decent percentage of the class, but it's not huge. And this is what I call compliant. This is necessary foundation stuff. And then we get into the good times. For the most part, the rest of the assignments are all based around an HR audit. And so I've done this as a consultant, and I'm going to task you with doing it too. At a big picture, you're going to look at every single function of that HR touches within a company, and you're going to audit it and say, how can we do this better? What's working well? What's not working well? And how can we make it better based on latest research, based on best practices, based on aligning it with firm strategy, and aligning it with the culture or the environment in which they're embedded. SWOT analysis probably included with that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the first step of this is the HR audit proposal. That is, pick a firm. Ideally, this is a firm that you're actually working in, because you're going to get access to information, or else you already have it with you. We can say, hey, tell me about your recruitment process. You can go, oh, well, here's where it works. Here's where it doesn't work. We do a little reading, and we go, oh, here's kind of some of the basic best practices in recruitment. Well, gee, like we do all of them except this one. So that's kind of part of the audit. If you're not working in a firm right now, I know a couple of you are like, yeah, James, I would love to be working in HR in a firm right now. So if you're not working in a firm right now in HR, there's plenty of public firms you can do. I mean, Starbucks is a simple example. You can walk into Starbucks, you can maybe interview a shift supervisor, say, how do you hire people? However you want to do that. So pick a firm, and ideally it needs to be big enough to actually have some HR processes down. So if someone says, my uncle runs a hardware store in Morrow, Oregon, and there's 3 people that work there, I'd be like, yeah, you want to pick something that's going to have a little bit more complexity in terms of the HR program. It doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 firm at all. I don't mean that. 50 people, 25 people minimum, something like that. So you can tell me what the firm is and how you're gonna get the information, how you're gonna go synthesizing it. Then you're gonna submit an HR audit pre-submission. Okay, so what does that mean? That means you're going to say, here's where I'm at with this week's research, and I'm gonna look at it and go, okay, it looks good, or think about this, and try to give you some feedback. If it looks good, I may give you feedback like, hey, it looks good. But if not, we'll probably engage a little bit more. So what are the functional areas? I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to go over to modules and show you the SHRM body of knowledge. So this is here. It's all yours. This is kind of the latest one that was released. And it kind of goes like this. This is the graph that it looks like. On the bottom, let me zoom this in here a little bit. There we go. On the bottom, you will see HR functional areas right here. And this is basically everything that we need to know. And then on top is everything we need to be good at. So down here is just knowledge, and up here is technical competency and behavioral competencies. Basically all that knowledge, and then synthesizing it into action. So these 15 areas down here, the HR functional areas, are what? See if I can get you like a table of contents or something. Oh, this is annoying. I don't know what page it's on. I've got it in my I printed it out. Oh, geez. Of course, table of contents is up by the table of contents. Just, that was a test for you guys. Make sure you knew that. So right in the second page, these are the 15 functional areas. So week one, you're going to go, okay, at this firm, what does HR strategic planning look like? You will probably find, some of you will find that there is no such thing here. That's okay. Some of you find, well, we have a pretty excellent process. So at the end of week one, you go 1 through 5. This is how we do these things at this firm. At the end of week 2, the organization knowledge domain, 6 through 10. This is how we do at this firm. At the end, you will have audited each one of these areas for any particular firm. So if that sounds overwhelming, it's not. We will be walking through it together. Not to worry. All the rest of the assignments are based around that. So you have, here's my idea, my proposal, how I'm going to do it. Here's what I'm thinking for areas 1 through 5. Here's what I'm thinking for areas 6 through 10, for 11 through 15. And then, of course, at the very end, oh, this is the content of it, sorry. The final deliverable, title page, executive summary, obviously, and purpose. And for each of the 15 areas, we're looking for 3 things. So it's strategic planning, HR strategic planning. What did you find? Like what stood out? What are some solutions or best practices that fit there? And then you have to justify, this is why this best practice fits in this situation. That's it for functional area 1, on to functional area 2. Some of them might be a paragraph. Some of them might be several pages. But for the most part, it's just we're going to address each one. This is what I found. This is what we know is good. And here's how I'm justifying why this fits in the company that you chose, that particular context. Okay, here's how I'm going to look at it in terms of evaluation. So quite obviously, was it professional? We got to be careful. It's going to take some judgment here. So meaning if you go into a particular firm, your firm, and you audit everything, it's going to be really easy to feel like, well, I know what's going on here, and I've got the the universal perspective. It's like when someone, that always cracks me up when someone teaches on like I've given several diversity seminars, and it's also weird to me because I'm like, how can one human with one framework think that they can understand and they're the ones that actually get it right now? It's kind of suboptimal. But my encouragement here is don't take this HR audit that you're doing and march to the CEO and say these are all the changes we need to make. It's going to require some careful judgment. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying be careful with how we use it. Feel free to ask me about that if it comes up. So, was it professional? Meaning, did you follow the format that I laid out? Like, does it look good? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Or tables or charts or figures or graphs and everything? Is it all there? Does it look like something that an HR professional made based on that criteria? Was it accurate? Meaning, I did the company of Starbucks, and they don't do any HR planning. Yeah, they do. They do a ton of HR planning. Sabrina Jenkins is one that actually does it. She's a CW, well, she did before she left. She's a CW grad. So when I read it, I go, is this accurate? And when you say these are best practices in the recruiting process, I go, are those in fact best practices in the recruiting process? And the big one, of course, is business solutions. One of the pet peeves of people who deal with HR is that we tend to be pretty good at making HR solutions and not business solutions. If we are a business partner, right, if we're trying to link people and strategy and process and output, trying to link all that, we don't come in and say, oh, gee, there was an allegation of sexual harassment here at Boeing, and so we're going to train 183,000 employees on a week-long training process on sexual harassment. No, that's killing an ant with a sledgehammer. Is it important? Yes. We deal with it. Yes. We investigate. Yes, absolutely, no question. But we don't only bring HR solutions. It has to be consistent with the rest of the business and business strategy. So what I'm saying here is, are the solutions that you propose? You said this is the way I want to go. Is it viable? Is it realistic? Is it tempered? Does it fit with the business? Does it fit with some semblance of a budget? Stuff like that. And of course, did you get all the functional areas? It's possible you may come across one, you just go, this this functional area doesn't fit for this context of business, again, bounce it off me in the Zoom meetings. That'll be fine. So that's it. Certification assignment, that is, what do you want to do? Personal program goals, what do you want to get out of the whole program? HR perspective essay questions. There's 4, 1 each week. They're pretty light, but that's just, are we all kind of on the same page? And then the rest of it is all geared toward your audit. That is going into a company and seeing how they do HR and seeing how they can do HR better. The last thing at the very end is just, like I said, personal reflections. How did it go? The Zoom meetings you can see here are extra credit. They're pretty light. They stack up. There's 50 of them. So, I mean, 10% of the grade, meaningful. So let's switch over now to modules, and I can show you a little bit more of the sequence as we go through. As soon as I find modules. There we go. Okay, so right off the bat, you will see the SHRM body of competency and knowledge. That I'll show you my copy. It looks like this. I got it wrapped up in hardbound because I want to read it more than once. SHRM isn't the only authority on what HR is and isn't, but they generally do a pretty darn good job. And that's how they've laid out the field of HR. If you want to read it and get after it, great idea. At a minimum, those 15 functional areas, read the descriptions of them, because that's my filter. That's what I'm going to be looking for as I evaluate your final project at the end. This last reading here, it's optional. Again, I don't kind of quiz you on it. It's by a guy named Dave Ulrich. He's over at the Ross School over at Michigan, and it's just a good perspective on this maturation of HR as a science and as a discipline over the last 2 or 3 decades. Like kind of, have we arrived and what's next? He does a good job laying it out. Ulrich, you can see he's also the author of the book. He's a good thinker in HR. He's not the only thinker in HR, but he's kind of a spokesperson in some ways. The rest of that, the modules are laid out basically like weeks. So module 1, we'll have a meeting. If you can make it, great. If not, syllabus, everything is here. This will link you to the personal program goals assignment and the certification assignment. Submit those. Submit them in Doc, Microsoft Word, or PDF. Either one's fine. The next week, we have a meeting. We start with some compliance work, and you give me your proposal for your major project. The next week, module 3, again, meeting, perspective, and then we start going through functional areas 1 through 5. Same thing, 6 through 10. Same thing, 11 through 15. So that's kind of the middle of those 6 weeks. We're just ka-chunk, kind of working our way through. And then after that, that one's due on October 9th. I will get feedback to you as soon as I can, because you will have 5 days to submit the granddaddy right there, the final HR audit. Whatever the dates might be slightly tweaked. Well, I'll get into it, but it's going to be a short window from my last feedback to you to formatting the whole thing to hopefully something, of course, that you're very proud of. So one final comment while we're here on modules. If you scroll down, there's a couple folks I've talked to throughout the summer who were like, yes, I'm in, but I don't know really how to spell HR, and the whole thing is totally new to me, but I'm ready to work hard. I'm ready to get after it. So there's a few options there you can do. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on SHRM if you want to explore the website. There's white papers. Just pick up an old HR textbook. They're free online. That'll kind of give you a good framework. But if you are like me, like you read a textbook, you read a paragraph, and you're like, yeah, I have no idea what I just read. And you try it again. Nope, still didn't get it. Where you don't love to read, maybe. These are all my lectures from the intro HR class. So obviously at graduate level, looking for much more sophisticated analysis, and in-depth kind of perspective. But if you are new to HR, I highly recommend these. They're all on YouTube. I mean, hit play and on your way to work. Don't watch the video on your way to work. But whatever it is, you can get all these there. Or if you want to brush up on a particular area, like, hey, in my audit, they're talking a lot about job descriptions not fitting what people actually do anymore because the job descriptions are 20 years old. Super common issue. You can go down here to HRM 4, jobs and job analysis, and you can kind of go through it. So it's all there, available if you would like to. Again, that's just the foundations undergraduate level, but at least it'll create some common vernacular for those who've been outside of HR for a while. So that is it for the course introduction. I know it was generally light and quick because most of this will be happening synchronously for those who can make the Zoom meetings. If you can't, that doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. I'm a professor. I love talking with students, right? It's one of the challenges with online, but everybody's got their own work schedule and stuff they're doing. I respect that. If you can't make those Zoom meetings, just call me, text me. We'll find some other time. It's not a big deal. I'm looking forward to it. It's a short window for us, and I would love at the end of 6 weeks to have like a somewhat of a relationship over Zoom of yes, we know each other and get each other's humor and stuff like that. Because like I said, we are invested in you. So, any questions? Reach out and best of luck.